All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. If anybody comes in, they can just join. We'll go over them later. All right. So today we're gonna go over, there was 4 new forms released. There's 2 of your compensation agreement. One is seller's broker to buyer's broker, which is the one we're going to use. The other one is seller to buyer's broker, which we're not going to use that one because we're going to be compensated by the seller's broker. The other 2 are modification to compensation agreement, seller's broker to buyer's broker, which is the one you're going to use. And then the other one I didn't print it is the seller to buyer's broker because you're not going to use that one. So we're going to start with the first one. Okay, so number 1, the first one, this will go with any new listing that you have. So this is basically, best way to sum it up, this is your buyer's agent agreement with your seller that she is going to pay you commission, compensation. This has nothing to do, as you can see, your seller does not sign it. This does not get uploaded into the document section. This goes absolutely nowhere. This is an agreement just between the brokers, saying that compensation will be paid, and then it's also your agreement that the seller is going to pay you. So everybody, please, please, please do not put this anywhere on the MLS. I cannot stress that enough.
So this is what we should get, if we want to show a listing, we need to get this from the other agent?
No, if you are a listing agent,
Okay,
this will now go with your listing agreement.
okay,
So we do a listing agreement and then we do a compensation agreement,
okay.
okay?
This does not go to the other agents?
Now, this will just go to the broker. And it will also go to the title company, showing who is paying what for title. So this is more of a title document for who is paying what for compensation at closing.
Okay. So if the other agent, on the other side, the buyer's agent contacts us, they're gonna ask us how much the seller is paying.
We're gonna get to that.
But we're not giving this to them.
No.
They're not signing it.
Correct.
This is for their broker.
Correct.
So
For
this
title
is simply
purposes.
another addition to the listing
Yes.
agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
And these 4 forms came out maybe 3 weeks ago and nobody told us they were coming. So they were just a surprise.
I'm sorry, this goes to the,
This is going to the buyer's broker, yes. And then it will be signed by the brokers.
When do you send it? Whenever you.
When you have
go
a
to the
contract.
buyer.
Whenever you have a
Yeah,
contract.
so this will just sit in your form simplicity. In the bottom, you can send it to your seller, just so that there is an email correspondence. They don't need to sign it, whatever. It just goes to your seller. All right, and then it just stays in a file, doesn't go anywhere until title needs it. So on the first part, obviously it's Eagles World Realty Inc. is going to be your seller's broker. Buyer's broker, leave it blank. If when you're going to the listing agreement, you do not already have a buyer. We're going to insert the property address, buyer's name, obviously keep it blank. And then the listing agreement termination date is what goes here. Now, if you have a contract that's already been accepted, executed, it's just going through the process and it's going to go later, then this agreement, that's fine, you're protected. If you continue reading, that you will still be paid as long as that contract that started is the one that closes. You're fine. This right here, buyer's broker compensation. This right here says that the seller's broker is going to compensate the buyer's broker. This is where you're going to put either a flat fee or you're going to check this box, put whatever you guys agreed to in the listing agreement. If it was 3%, we're gonna put 3% there. The plus, you can enter 0, but it's going to be better if that's where you put your brokerage transaction fee. I know everybody charges different, but your minimum rate here is going to be $250. Now, in the first release of this form in the video, which is what we discussed when Landmark was here last time, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but in the first video, the attorney for NEFAR said that you must have the seller's permission to disclose the compensation to buyer's agents or brokers who call over the phone. Not to disclose it on the MLS, not to share it in emails, but over the phone. When they did an update or a revise to that video, they then took that verbiage out. And speaking to everybody in title, everybody that we kind of are in a group with going through all of these forms, and then attorneys, we've decided it's probably just safe to leave that in there. So I have in my copy, you will see down here, the seller agrees to allow the listing agent to share the compensation amount with buyers, agents, and brokers.
And you can do that how?
Over the phone.
Just over the phone?
Yes, because they're gonna call you over the phone because there is no commission listed anywhere. So they're gonna call you anyways. So now,
So what if they text you? Because unfortunately, that's my experience with
that's
any
fine,
listing.
that's fine. Texting, calling, that's the same form
Bless
of
you.
communication.
So
Bless you.
perfect.
But you need to have something from your seller, an email, a text, some kind of electronic form of communication, not just a verbal over the phone, I allow you to share this, but an actual email, text saying, I give you permission to share the compensation with buyers, brokers, and buyers agents.
And that's what this covers?
That's what that clause is in there.
Okay.
So first, ask if they're okay, which it would be silly if they weren't. So everybody's gonna be okay with it.
Yeah.
And then just put the disclaimer in there.
Is the disclaimer already there, or do we need to type in what you put?
Yeah, type that in.
Oh, okay.
So all of these annotated examples that you're seeing right here, these are all in the forms packages under listing. So if you go all the way to the bottom in the files, you'll find all these annotated examples. There's also a listing agreement that's been annotated as well that you can go through.
So does that now mean that we can then email someone how much the compensation is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I would do it over the phone. I like
I'm
doing it over
just, I'm
the
just
phone.
concerned, Mallory.
How many?
You call an agent and they tell you, oh, it's 3%.
Yeah.
And then,
They tell you within say 3%.
yeah, and then you go to close and it's
So
like, no, I
then-
never told you that.
Okay, so then in that case, I would send an email to that agent to recap your conversation, say,
So we have
hey,
something
I
in
just
writing.
wanna make sure,
Okay.
you know, that 3% is, you know, blah, blah, blah.
And you
Just-
suggest that we get in writing what they told us?
Yeah, whatever they're telling you, yes,
I
I would,
do it.
yeah.
Yes, I'm just
I'll
wasn't
always
sure if we were
recap.
allowed to do that.
Yeah, I'll always just
Okay.
recap a conversation, a subject line is recap of our conversation, just like, hey, I wanna make sure we're both on the same page, it's 3% commission.
You said title will have this one as well?
Title will have that, and then they'll also have the buyer's agent agreement to know what is paid on that as well.
Can, once we are in agreement, can we call title to confirm the commission? What they just
Yeah.
said?
Yeah, so
Will
whenever,
they share that?
yeah, it's on, yeah, at that point you have a deal, it's done, like,
Yeah, you're not gonna, title's not gonna know until they actually have the contract. So, and then they normally will ask us what
So-
commission is anyway.
When you're sending this to title, you know, like when you're doing the timeline.
I will get to your questions in just a minute online, go ahead.
When you're sending all the documents to title, you know, when you're doing the timeline and including all the documents, can you include this and on the same email, the other agent is attached? It will
If you're
kind of
sending it to
visualize-
title,
Like, you know,
yeah, it's just gonna be in like Qualia, it's just gonna sit
Right.
there and live there, yeah, which the other agent is
And then
gonna
you
have access to, yeah.
Everybody has
So
to
it's
sign
not,
this,
but at
right?
that point, you already have
Already
a
you're on the
contract.
contract. It's just a
Exactly.
confirmation so that you don't have
Because it
to
says seller's
reconfirm
broker and
with
buyer's
someone else. you know?
After
Yeah,
dinner.
but the recap
Right,
email
everybody
is,
has to
So
sign.
basically, this can only be shared under the contract.
yes, then it's, because then it's gonna be signed by both brokers and it's gonna go through title and then it's gonna be
Okay.
done. Because you'll see at the bottom of the screen down here where it says seller's broker and buyer's broker, you as agents do not sign down here. This
Who
will
has
be
to sign that?
only the brokers. So once you have a done deal, then it's signed. Arbitration down here. Listing agents and buyer's agents can sign for this one.
Are you going to sign these, Mallory, or just who do
Or
we
just
send
signs
these
these.
to?
The broker, or it's
So we send them to Orges or Lori?
Words, yep.
We'll upload it in for simplicity. So
But-
that's how it gets to the broker.
Well, you have to put their signature to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they just review
But
that.
they're initial.
You
Yeah.
have to send what he signed.
Oh,
You have
okay.
to send what he signed.
And then the arbitration down here, you guys will initial those miscellaneous clauses. It's just where it gets very wordy by the attorneys. This one right here, this has been added to every single form. Brokers' commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. In no event will buyer's broker's compensation exceed the amount of compensation in buyer's broker's separate written agreement with the buyer. So now let's say you're paying 3%, but that buyer's agent only has 2% written on their buyer's agent agreement. Right now, that 1% is just gone and they're paid 2%. So again, which is why the buyer's agent agreement goes to title so that they know what is paid, and why this goes to title so they know who is paid. So this is honestly just for title to know who is paid.
wait a minute, say that again? We have a seller who's agreed to pay 3% to the buyer's agent.
Mhm.
So they have an agreement with their,
So the buyer's agent agreement,
right,
Raji is my buyer.
right,
We've signed an agreement. He's gonna pay me 2% commission. I take Raji to Amelia's house. She's offering 3% commission on her house. But Raji and I's agreement is only 2%. That extra 1% now disappears, goes to nobody.
so why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
Everybody needs, we're gonna go over this in the buyer's agent agreement, which is why you really need to attend that class. But this right here, you guys are getting a little sample as to why you need to attend that class. So that 1%, because you can only be paid on what you have with that buyer
When the
agreement.
buyer is not paying it though, the
They
seller's
are.
agent is paying it,
Where you still have to have.
or
a
the
break-
seller is paying it.
If
The
you can
buyer?
get the seller to pay it, but
Well,
if
that's what
not,
this is for, right?
yes, but let's say they're not offering commission
Oh,
or it's
that I
2%.
understand.
If anything is lower than what is in your buyer's agent agreement, if she's paying 3, we're only agreed to 2, he doesn't have to pay me 3 because she's offering 3. Or, okay, hold on here. Let's say we're with a builder.
No, let's not go to builders yet.
No, because you're gonna have an incentive with a builder. We have a 3% agreement, you and I. Builder is over here offering a $2,000 bonus. That $2,000 is out the window because it's not in our agreement. The 3%, yes,
Oh, that sucks.
you are going to get, yes,
That
Cindy,
doesn't
yes,
make
hold
any
on,
sense.
hold on. Yes, you are correct because the seller is paying.
Right.
I was talking if the seller's not paying, he has to pay me the 2%. I think that's where we got confused.
Oh,
Yeah.
so wait a minute.
But yes,
If
you
the
are
seller-
correct.
Okay, so when the
Yes, he's
seller
still
is
going to pay.
paying it, whatever agreement you have between the two of you is null and void because it's not needed.
Yes, but
Okay.
it's still, he has still only agreed to pay me 2%.
Yeah, but he's not using you.
I understand that, but
They're paying
in,
you.
but in our agreement that we have, it's 2%, which
Right.
is why you're gonna come to the buyer's agent class and learn the disclaimer that you have to put in there.
Okay.
There we go.
But if the seller is paying, then it doesn't matter what your agreement is with the buyer.
It does,
It
it
will
does
matter.
matter, because
But it
that,
doesn't change how much you're gonna get.
it will, yes, that's why I tried to bring in the
That doesn't-
incentive part,
Makes sense.
because you guys have agreed to 2%.
That's not agreed to.
But the 3%, it doesn't matter that you should always put 3%. I
Right.
mean, or make it relative to the house, which we'll go over in the buyer's agent agreement. I don't wanna get too far, like, down the rabbit hole on this, but whatever is on that buyer's agent agreement is what you have agreed to be paid in commission. It reads in there, if you've read the buyer's agent agreement, it reads in there, anything above and beyond what is agreed to in this, agreement is gone.
So now, if I am being offered from the seller 3% that they're gonna pay me, but my agreement says 2.5%, how does the buyer's agent, or how does the seller's agent then know that, no, you're not gonna pay like 6%, you're only gonna pay 5.5% because
Because the title company has your buyer's agent agreement. They know what you're being paid, and they know what the seller's being paid, and they know how much commission is going away.
But can you make that agreement with the seller, with the buyer?
I mean, when I tell my
We're gonna learn that
seller,
Wednesday.
when I tell my seller how much they're gonna net, I always figure out what the compensation is gonna be.
Yeah,
So
but
how
then
do I
worst
know
case
what-
scenario, they're making more money. Worst case scenario. You're making an extra 1%, extra 5%.
Do you know how confusing this is going to be?
It is.
It is going to be a major mess.
Which
Well, what I
is
think
why
is,
you have
first
all
you're
the
gonna call the listing agent and
samples.
ask how much is the percentage.
Exactly.
Then you're gonna tell your buyer, hey, sign this, because this is what they pay.
But sometimes.
But we're
you're
not gonna
have
talk
to
about
do
buyer's
that
agent
agreement.
rep. We're gonna talk about buyer's agent rep, because that's Wednesday with Mark and I.
But Andrea, you're gonna probably have that agreement signed before you find the
Yes.
house and before
Yes.
you know
No,
how
you
much
should
that
make an
seller.
agreement before it was showing for each house.
For each house, there's gonna be an
You can
agreement?
make an agreement for each house before you
No,
show.
no, for each buyer, not each house. Just wait, we're not getting into the buyer's agent agreement, we're gonna get into that on Wednesday with Mark and I, okay? All of these questions, 11 o'clock, all of these questions will be answered that you have right now. I didn't change the form, Cindy, don't look at me, I didn't change the forms. Hold on, real quick, Dave, in form simplicity,
My God.
if you go to start a new transaction and just go under sellers files, those forms have been updated, all of these are in the bottom. They're also in that forms packages, the buyer's package has also been updated. When you're representing the buyer, Vandana, this is gonna go to the title company like we just spoke about, which I probably already answered your question. If not, let me know. Okay. Any more questions on this one after I ruffled some
How
feathers?
many times do you think this is gonna change again before August 17th?
Probably again. Probably again.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. They're going to.
Just like the buyer's agent rep has changed. Okay, so let's go back to this real quick. At the ends, authorized associates, you guys can sign down here. These two spots are left for the broker. All right, now I'm gonna blow your mind some more, Cindy. Now we have a modification to the compensation agreement.
Let's
Oh
go.
my God.
It's only a one pager, so thank goodness. This one also does not get added to the MLS, does not get added to the documents tab. Nowhere on this should this exist on the MLS. All right, so this is if you change anything, same as a listing agreement. If you change anything, we have a listing change agreement. So let's say that the house is sat on the market, sellers decided, okay, I'm not gonna pay 3% anymore. Let's throw it down to a flat fee, a whatever. If you're changing commission, it goes here. Again, always cover yourself and just put disclaimers everywhere. because this is going to be a time where people are looking for agents to make mistakes, which again is why we have 11 classes this month, to make sure that everybody is prepared. So this one, super easy. Again, you're gonna see commissions are not set by law and fully negotiable. In no event will buyer's broker compensation exceed the amount of compensation written by your agreement. There's that disclaimer. It's a tough one,
I will just have my buyer
but we're
do
going
it.
to cover that
Okay.
on Wednesday, so don't freak out.